So last time we were talking about the future of man. All the psychologists, as far as I can understand, are they really concerned with the future of man? Or are they concerned with the human being conforming to the present society, or going beyond that?
Well, I think that most psychologists evidently want the human being to conform to this society, but I think some psychologists, some of whom will be listening to us, are thinking of going beyond that to transform the consciousness of mankind.
Can the consciousness of mankind be changed through time?
Yes.
That's one of the questions we should discuss this evening.
Yes, we have discussed it actually last time, and I think that what came out was that the consciousness of mankind, that with regard to consciousness, time is not relevant, that it is a kind of illusion, that we discussed the illusion of becoming.
Yeah. We are saying, aren't we, let's be clear, that the evolution of consciousness is a fallacy.
As through time, right?
Yes.
Through time.
Through
now,
time.
Though through physical evolution is not.
Yes.
Now,
there is no, can we put it this much more simply, there is no psychological evolution or the evolution of the psyche.
Yes, and since the future of mankind depends on the psyche, it seems then that we cannot, the future of mankind is not going to be determined through actions in time, right?
Time, that's right.
And then that left us the question, what will we do, right?
Now let's proceed from there.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we first distinguish between the brain and the mind?
Yes, well, that distinction has been made, and it is not clear. Now, of course, there are several views. One view is to say that mind is just a function of the brain, and that is the materialist view. There's another view which says mind and brain are two different things.
Yes, I think they are two different things.
But there must be
a contact between the two.
Yes,
relationship between
relation.
the two.
As we don't necessarily imply any separation of the two.
No, first let's see the brain.
Yeah.
I'm really not an expert on the structure of the brain and all that kind of thing, but one can see one can observe one's own activity of the brain, that it is really like a computer that's been programmed and remembers.
Well, it's certainly a large part of the activity is that way, but one is not certain that all of it is that way.
No. And it is conditioned.
Yes.
Conditioned by past generations, by the society, by the newspapers, by the magazines, by all the activities and pressure from the outside. It is conditioned.
Yes. Now, what do you mean by this conditioning? You see, what does it?
It is programmed. It is made to conform to a certain pattern, lives entirely on the past, modifying itself in the future with the present and going on.
Yes. Now, we've agreed that some of this conditioning is useful and necessary.
Of course, we've discussed that last
Yes,
time.
and now, but the conditioning which determines the self, which determines
the psyche.
The psyche, or you call it the psyche.
Let's call it for the moment
the psyche.
The self.
The self, the psyche. That conditioning is what you're talking about. That may not only be unnecessary, but harmful. Right?
Yes, that's what we were discussing too.
Yes.
That the emphasis on the psyche, as we are doing now, and giving importance to the self, is creating great damage in the world. because it's separative, and it is, therefore, it is constantly in conflict, not only within itself and with the society, with the family, and so on and so on.
Yes, and it's also in conflict with nature.
With the nature, with the whole universe, if you can call it.
I think we discussed last time that the conflict arose because the division arising because thought is limited.
Thought is limited.
Being based on this conditioning, on this knowledge and memory, it is limited.
Yes. And experience is limited, therefore knowledge is limited, memory and thought. Thought is limited, and the very structure and the nature of the psyche is the movement of thought.
Yes.
In time.
Yes. Now I'd like to ask a question. When you discuss the movement of thought, it doesn't seem clear to me what is moving. You see, I discussed the movement of my hand. That is a real movement. It's clear what is meant. But now when I discuss the movement of thought, it seems to me we're discussing something which is a kind of illusion, because you have said becoming is the movement of thought.
Becoming is entirely core.
And that, therefore, if you say thought...
That's what I mean, the movement in becoming.
But that movement you're saying is in some way illusory, aren't you?
Yes, of course.
But it's rather like the movement on the screen, which is projected from the
screen,
cine camera.
Yes.
And we say that there's no object moving across the screen, but the only real movement is the turning of the projector. Now, can we say that there's a real movement in the brain which is projecting all this, which is the conditioning?
So that's what I want to find out. Let's discuss that a bit.
Yeah.
We both agree or see that the brain is conditioned.
And we mean by that really it's been impressed physically.
Physically as well as
chemically.
Genetically as well as psychologically.
Well, what is the difference of physically and psychologically?
Psychologically, it is centered in the self. Right?
Yes.
And the constant assertion of the self is the movement, is the conditioning.
Yes, but insofar as we experience it, that's an illusion, right?
We said that's an illusion.
But there is some real movement happening inside. Say the brain, for example, is doing something. It's been conditioned physically and chemically.
Chemically, yes.
And something is happening physically and chemically when we are thinking of the self, right?
Are you asking rather, the brain and the self are two different things?
No, I'm saying the self is the result of conditioning the brain.
Yes.
And
the self is conditioning the brain.
Yes, but does the self exist?
No.
But the conditioning of the brain, as I see it, is involving with an illusion which we call the self.
That's right. Can that conditioning be dissipated?
Yes.
That's the whole question.
Yes, and it really has to be dissipated in some physical and chemical and neurophysiological sense, right?
Yes.
And now the first reaction of any scientific person would be, it looks unlikely that we could dissipate it by the sort of thing we are doing. You see, some scientists might feel, well, maybe we will discover drugs or new genetic changes or deep knowledge of the structure of the brain, and that way we could perhaps hope to do something. I think that idea might be current among some people.
Will that change the human behavior?
Well, why not? You see, I think some people believe it might. That
is, which means, that's the whole point. It might.
Yeah.
Which means in the future.
Yes. It would take time to discover all this.
In the meantime, man is going to destroy himself.
Well, they might hope that he'll manage to do it in time. You see,